Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 215 of Bill Man the Sport Guys podcast. I'm your host, Bill Man the Sports Guy. For the latest news of the NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, and college sports, this is the podcast to be. Today's episode, really easy description. It's basically the Major League Baseball trade deadline because it did happen on Thursday, July 31st. And I'm going to give you my thoughts on the major trades that have happened, along with a possible few minor league ones. So let's get started with one trade that first happened, like just right before the deadline, basically. And that is the Milwaukee Brewers have acquired Danny Jansen and cash considerations from the Tampa Bay Rays in exchange for infielder Jadar Arenamo. So Arenamo, good prospect for the Tampa Bay Rays because that's just how the Rays work. They will sign lowball free agents to cheap 1 year deals or 2 year, 3 year, and then they'll bring them back to the value and then they trade them, whether it's deadline, free agency, you name them. So adding Arenamo gives the Rays another really good, solid infield prospect, and he's going to be a really good young player, and I think he will truthfully pan out for the Rays. Now, as for Danny Jansen, I was a bit confused with the Milwaukee Brewers thought process because when I first heard this, my thought was, are they just gonna platoon the catchers now? Maybe start him, Danny Jansen some days, and start William Contreras other days? Or are they just gonna look at a 1A, 1B, which isn't awful, but will that pan out? I think Danny Jansen gives him good defense. The bat isn't perfect, but I think the bat, and if he could bring the bat up basically in Milwaukee, I think the Brewers, let's not count them out for possible World Series contenders for 2025. Then the next trade we're going to discuss is right-handed pitcher Seranthony Dominguez is going to go to the Toronto Blue Jays. The Baltimore Orioles are going to get right-handed pitcher Uran Watts Brown. Now, Watts Brown, minor league right-hander, and he was also the 10th ranked best prospect in the Toronto Blue Jays system. The Orioles, as a disappointment, this is basically them retooling or hitting the retool button, getting prospects now, which is also unfortunate for the city of Baltimore because that means we're not going to see him good again for probably another 5 to 7 years. And surprisingly was at the time, the Orioles and the Blue Jays were versing each other. So Dominguez had to go to the other locker room. And as surprising as the Toronto Blue Jays have been since around May, June of this year, they're adding big help. And it's truthfully going to give them big help to win the division and make it to the playoffs. Now, World Series is a bit of a far stretch, but watch out for the Toronto Blue Jays because they're really going to make some noise. All right. This next trade we are going to discuss Jake Edler, or Jake Eder, sorry. I don't know why I said Edler, but Eder is going to the Washington Nationals from the Los Angeles Angels in exchange for right-handed pitcher Luis Garcia and left-handed pitcher Andrew Chafin. For the life of me, I truly don't understand the Los Angeles Angels because they're kind of in the we're out of the playoffs, but they're like, oh, wait a minute, we could contend for the playoffs. The Angels cannot make up their minds. And poor Mike Trout, when on earth is this guy going to request a trade? Because while Chafin Garcia, yeah, good pitching depth, but you also got rid of a young pitcher in Jake Eder, who I think is going to do well with the Washington Nationals. But Garcia and Chafin, I don't know. And the Angels' chance to make the playoffs is at 4.9. So I guess they're taking a big shot, but can the Angels please make up their minds? Anyway, the Pittsburgh Pirates have traded Ke'Bryan Hayes to the Cincinnati Reds for right-handed pitcher Taylor Rogers and shortstop Sammy Stafura. Bob Nutting has destroyed the Pittsburgh Pirates. Let's be honest. And the team clearly isn't even good, but you could thank the Colorado Rockies for being way worse than the Pirates. Because realistically, The Pirates should be the worst team in baseball, but there's a different team in Colorado that's already made its point. But Pittsburgh, poor Andrew McCutchen, poor Paul Skeens. When does this misery stop? Adding Stafura, you know, Pittsburgh's ninth ranked prospect, but then Taylor Rogers, good pitching help, and Ke'Bryan Hayes, he couldn't really hit the ball out of the air that much. So let's see what the Reds do in terms of changing his hitting ways and improving him defensively at third base because Ke'Bryan Hayes does have a good glove. And I think he'll do well for the Reds because the Reds were starting Jamer Candelario. Guess what? He gone. They DFA'd him. Now, Ke'Bryan Hayes, let's see how he does. It's a new change, new scenery, but dear Pittsburgh Pirate fans, I am so sorry that you have an owner that is just running you all to the ground. Like, it's almost not even funny at this point. Now, let's go with the trade the New York Mets made. Tyler Rogers, the Mets acquired him for the San Francisco Giants for right-handed pitcher Blake Towell, Jose Budo, and outfielder Drew Gilbert. So the Giants, they're kind of in this situation to where they could still give the Dodgers and Padres a run for their money for the NL West, but they really haven't done well since the Rafael Devers trade. The Giants are going to be an interesting team. I think all three players will help, but we'll see. Tyler Rogers, though, for a New York Mets team in the NL East, Rogers, good bullpen help. And I like this move a lot for Steve Cohen and the New York Mets. All right, next one. Yohan Duran is going to the Philadelphia Phillies for right-handed pitcher Mick Abel and catcher Eduardo Tate. So we're not going to say this is the only Minnesota Twins trade they made because the Twins basically, or I should refer them to as Minnesota frauds, they basically traded almost everybody except for Byron Buxton. And there's somebody else I'm naming, but it's blanking on me at the moment. So Mick Abel, he'll do well with Minnesota. Minnesota has been developing very good pitching, so I expect them to turn Mick Abel to a top 10 pitcher or elite pitcher in all baseball. Eduardo Tate, he was the Phillies' fourth ranked prospect. I'm interested to see how the Twins, I think they'll develop him. Now, adding for Juan Duran, let's not forget the Atlanta Braves. They've been a bit hot lately. The Mets are still good. So it's basically the Phillies and Mets right now, but we cannot not count the Atlanta Braves. I think Duran, he's a really good addition for the Phillies bullpen. They had Jose Alvarado, but he gets suspended for PEDs. And Duran, best addition with this hard flame throwing. Watch out for the Phillies. Next up, the St. Louis Cardinals traded Ryan Helsley, to the New York Mets. In return, the Cardinals get infielder Jesus Baez, right-handed pitcher Nate Dome, and right-handed pitcher Frank Elisal. So Elisal, Baez is the eighth ranked prospect in the Mets system. Now, Dome and Elsa, they're minor league right-handers, so I think the Cardinals will turn them to be really good pitchers. And Baez, giving the Cardinals another good infielder and a top prospect too on a very young St. Louis Cardinals team. The future's going to look bright sooner or later for the St. Louis Cardinals. And Ryan Helsley, excellent addition to the Mets bullpen. And it's really going to feel like them and the Phillies for who's going to be first place for the NL East. The Chicago Cubs acquired Michael Soroka from the Washington Nationals. In return, the Nationals get infielder Ronnie Cruz and outfielder Christian Franklin. So the Nationals, we all know they're rebuilding, so they sold in one of their highest value paid players in Michael Soroka. As a bullpen pitcher, Soroka has been really good this season. And in return, it gave the Nationals two top 20 prospects. Cruz, 18-year-old infielder. I'm curious to see how it'll pan out. It's kind of too early to tell right now. Now, Christian Franklin, who was the Cubs' 14th ranked prospect, brings, I think he'll be a really good outfielder for them. They both haven't played a major league game yet, so it's a little early to tell. But Soroka to a very good Chicago Cubs team. And speaking of today, the Cubs did win 5-3 against the Baltimore Orioles. We could thank longtime Dodger Justin Turner for that. But adding Michael Soroka to the bullpen, this gives the Cubs a good chance to still win the NL Central. Although the one thing I will say about the Cubs is I felt like they did okay, but they were a tad bit quiet at the same time. The next trade we are going to discuss. Infielder Ramon Urias is going to the Houston Astros for right-handed pitcher Twine Palmer. Urias, good infielder for the Orioles. And I think he'll do well for Houston. He does give the Astros really good infield depth. Have a good glove. Bats, meh. But going to a team like the Houston Astros, I think they're going to truly break through Urias, well, with the bat. And the glove, it's literally perfect. Twine Palmer is a single A right-handed pitcher. And as I said with the other Orioles trade, good depth, good prospects. Unfortunately, the Orioles may fall to rebuild, retool mode again. The St. Louis Cardinals also traded Steven Matz to the Boston Red Sox for first base Blaze Jordan. Another good prospect for the Cardinals. Jordan, it was ranked 17th in the Boston Red Sox prospect system. And the Red Sox are going to get a solid left-handed pitcher in Steven Matz, who I think will do well for the starting rotation and bullpen for a very tough AL East. I know the Yankees have been ice cold after the All-Star break, but we can never count them out. The Toronto Blue Jays have been red hot since around May, June. And let's not forget the Boston Red Sox. So it's truly going to go down to those three teams at the end of the day for the AL East. And Blaze Jordan, I think he'll be a good, really good first base for the St. Louis Cardinals because while Wilson Contreras is playing there, but he is getting a bit older. So adding a younger guy in Blaze Jordan absolutely helps the Cardinals for long success, for the future. Now into another major trade. Eugenio Suarez is going back to the Seattle Mariners, a team he was previously with, last played in, I believe it was the 2023 season, if I'm not mistaken, or it was 2022. I remember it was one of those years, but anyway, he was previously with the Mariners before joining the Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks traded back to the Mariners. So the Seattle Mariners being a really good team and adding Eugenio Suarez to a really good Seattle Mariners lineup, this gives Seattle a really good chance for postseason and hopefully for the sake of baseball and Mariner fans that the Mariners do go on a deep postseason run because they have the potential to. Now for the Diamondbacks, aka one of my disappointing teams for this season, first baseman Tyler Locklear, right-handed pitcher Hunter Cranston, and right-handed pitcher Juan Burgos. Hunter Cranston, Juan Burgos, they're 16th and 17th ranked respectively. And Tyler Locklear is Seattle's 9th ranked prospect. So more prospects for the future as Suarez is going to join his teammate Josh Naylor with the Seattle Mariners. So good prospects overall in return. The Chicago Cubs have also acquired right-handed pitcher Andrew Cutridge for the Baltimore Orioles in exchange for shortstop Wolfray De La Cruz. De La Cruz is going to be an interesting one for the Orioles. Will he be their long-term answer at shortstop in the future? It's only a matter of time or tell. And he is a 17-year-old shortstop, so he's got a lot of time to develop and become a really good major league pitcher or major league infielder. What am I saying? Anyway, he'll be a really big help for the Orioles. Now, Kittredge, good pitcher. He was having a fine year with the Orioles, and I think he's going to be a big help to the Chicago Cubs bullpen. Shane Bieber is going to go to the Toronto Blue Jays for right-handed pitcher Cal Stevenson. Shane Bieber, while he is hurt, but Shane Bieber, when healthy, can be a really good pitcher for the Blue Jays, and I'm curious to see how they're going to use him when he's active off the injured list, obviously. And for Cal Stevenson, good pitching prospect for the Cleveland Guardians. And I do believe he'll be a really good pitcher for Cleveland because Cleveland has also developed pitching really, really well. Now let's go to another big trade. Mason Miller is leaving the Athletics, not the Oakland Athletics, the Athletics, which is still super weird for me to say it. Anyway, they're going to trade to the San Diego Padres along with left-handed pitcher JP Sears. In return, the Athletics get shortstop prospects Ladolius DeVeers, right-handed pitcher Braden Nett, right-handed pitcher Henry Baez, and right-handed pitcher Warnio Nunez. So, wow, a lot to talk about here. So JP Sears is their third. He's Major League Baseball's number 3 overall prospect, and he's going to be really, really good for the San Diego Padres. And Mason Miller, who throws 100 plus miles an hour, gives them very excellent help. This is going to be a really good Padres team. The Padres and the Giants could low-key give the Dodgers a run for their money for the division and potential long playoff run too, because let's not forget the Giants did almost knock the Dodgers out of the playoffs back in 2021. But the Diamondbacks, they also took care of the Dodgers back in 2023. Let me remind you that. Anyway, the Athletics, they got good young prospects in return, and I think they'll all pan out because while the Athletics aren't as bad as they thought they would be, but they're overall doing pretty good. The Detroit Tigers have acquired Kyle Finnegan from the Washington Nationals for right-handed pitchers RJ Sales and Josh Randall. Not gonna lie, I'm not familiar with both of those players, so I can't comment on that. But Kyle Finnegan to a really good Detroit Tigers team, he's going to be really good for the Tigers. He's going to be a big help to win the AL Central because it's basically Detroit's at this point, and he'll help them make a good run for the playoffs. Another Minnesota Twins trade to talk about. They trade Harrison Bader to the Philadelphia Phillies for outfielder Henry Mendez and right-handed pitcher Jeremy Villarora. Mendez and Villarora actually has not been ranked, but like I said with the Minnesota other Twins trade, I think Villarroa will do well with Minnesota because Minnesota is good at developed pitching. Henry Mendez, who is the Phillies' 12th ranked prospect, I think he brings good outfield depth and potentially at some point take over the outfield for Byron Buxton because we know Byron Buxton, when healthy, is a really good player, but he gets hurt a lot. So Mendez will also give him good outfield depth. As for Harrison Bader, having an interesting year to say the least. So adding Harrison Bader to a very good Philadelphia Phillies team, really good outfield depth. So I honestly can't complain too much about it. Let's see. Next up, right-handed pitcher David Bednar is going to the New York Yankees for catcher, first base Rafael Flores, and Edwin Perez, outfielder Brian Sanchez. Once again, Bob Nutting destroying the Pittsburgh Pirates. It's not even close. So Flores, Perez, Sanchez, they're going to be good players for the Pirates in the future if the Pirates can actually contend and win the World Series. And David Bednar to a struggling New York Yankees pitching depth and bullpen, as lately the Yankees have been getting hit left to right with pitching injuries. Bednar is going to be a really good bullpen help for the Yankees, so I can't complain too much. That's all I got for this trade. Next up, Cedric Mullins is going to the New York Mets. The Orioles are going to get Anthony Nunez, Ramian Gomez, and Chandler Marsh, all three right-handed pitchers, by the way. Nunez was ranked 14th, Gomez was ranked 30th, and Marsh was never ranked for the Mets prospects. And again, Orioles rebuilding. And it's kind of, and I feel so sorry for the Oriole fans, but I think Marsh, Gomez, and Nunez will all be big help. Now, I'm a huge Cedric Mullins fan. I'm a fan of his game, and he gives fantastic outfield depth and another solid, good left-handed bat. He was basically carrying the Orioles offense along with Ryan O'Hearn this season. So going to a playoff team in the New York Mets for Cedric Mullins, this will help out. He will bring very good vibes to the New York Mets. I'm actually really excited for Cedric Mullins himself. This is an interesting one. Outfielder James Ottman got traded from the Los Angeles Dodgers to the Minnesota Twins for Brock Stewart. Dodgers have been incredibly hurt in the pitching department, so adding Stewart is going to help. And he does have a 2.38 ERA in 34 innings with 41 strikeouts. James Altman, once a top talented prospect for the Dodgers, hasn't really panned out. So new change, new scenery. That's really how I look at it. The New York Yankees have acquired right-handed pitcher Jake Bird from the Colorado Rockies for infielder Rock Rigo and left-handed pitcher Ben Shields. Hopefully, Ben Shields will be a really good pitcher for the Rockies. While the Rockies have struggled at pitching, free agency, and development, it's not even close. Rock Riggio, good prospect, and the Rockies need to trade basically everybody to get good prospects in return in order to be good again. As for Jake Bird, good pitching depth. Never hurts to have depth all around. And I think Jake Bird is going to be a good help for the New York Yankees. Outfielder Jesus Sanchez has got traded from the Miami Marlins. He's going to go to the Houston Astros for right-handed pitcher Ryan Guzzo. I won't comment too much on Guzzo. Not familiar with him, but Jesus Sanchez, as struggling as Houston's outfield has been offensively, adding a guy like Jesus Sanchez does help. Next up, we got Ryan O'Hearn and outfielder Raymond Laureano going to the San Diego Padres for left-handed pitcher Boston Bettman, infielder Cobb Hightower, infield outfielder Victor Figueroa, right-handed pitcher Tyson Neighbors, infielder Brandon Butworth, and right-handed pitcher Tanner Smith. So the Orioles got a ton of prospects in return. Bateman, who's San Diego's fourth-ranked prospect. Now, Hightower is their sixth-ranked. Figueroa is the 29th ranked. Neighbors was the 12th ranked. And Butworth and Smith, Murray and Dennis Lynn, they're all good prospects in outfield depth. So that's all I got to say for the Orioles, really, because the Orioles kind of blowing up the roster. Now, O'Hearn is going to be really good first base help behind Gavin Sheets, and Laureano gives him excellent outfield depth. I don't got a lot to complain about this one because I actually like it. Merrill Kelly is going to the Texas Rangers for Cole Drake, Mitch Bratt, and David Hagman. Brandon Drake are left-handed pitchers. Hagman, is the right-handed pitcher. So the Diamondbacks, once again, retooling for more pitching prospects, and hopefully they will be able to contend for the World Series, as it hasn't been that long since they last made it to the World Series. And Merrill Kelly to a Texas Rangers team who's going to battle for the postseason. This is a good trade overall for the Rangers. I like Kelly. I think he'll do well. The New York Yankees traded Oswald Peraza to the Angels for international bonus pool money and outfielder Wilberson DePena. DePena will be a good prospect. The Yankees get more cash. Oswald Peraza, he may get a true chance to play in the big leagues for the Los Angeles Angels, as his time was in and out with the Yankees. So new change, new scenery, and I think Peraza is going to do really well with the Angels. Next up, Willie Castro is going to the Chicago Cubs. The Twins in return are going to get right-handed pitchers Sam Armstrong and Ryan Gallagher. This was strange to me. Castro could potentially be their third baseman now, which means what's going to happen to Matt Shaw? I don't understand this trade overall from both sides. Nestor Cortez is going to the San Diego Padres for outfielder Brandon Lockridge. I think he'll be good for the Brewers. Hopefully, they'll turn him out to be a good star. Nestor Cortez Jr. struggled mightily bad with the Milwaukee Brewers. So hopefully, with a new change and a new scenery, I think he'll do really well. Excuse me. The Tampa Bay Rays have traded Jose Caballero to the Yankees for Everson Pereira and a player later to be named. Not a lot to say other than the Rays get a good prospect, and I do believe, or a good young outfielder and cash, and the Yankees get a good utility player in Jose Caballero. That's really all I gotta say. Speaking of Taylor Rogers, the Pirates dumped him to the Cubs. Well, I think it's gonna give him more pitching help because that's all I gotta say about this trade. And Ivan Brenthover, who the Cubs traded to the Pirates, it's fine. There really isn't a lot to say. Dustin May going to the Boston Red Sox for from the Dodgers for outfielder James Tibbs the third. Interesting for Dustin May. I think he'll do well with the Red Sox. And James Tibbs gives Dodgers more depth, which is good. The Twins traded right-handed pitcher Griffin Jax to the Tampa Bay Rays for right-handed pitcher Taj Bradley. So two teams swapping pitchers for new change, new scenery. And both teams, the Rays and the Twins, they're good at develop pitching. So I think this will work out for both teams. All right. My Chicago White Sox, they made two trades at the trade deadline. One of them, they traded Adrian Hauser to the Tampa Bay Rays for infielder Curtis Mead. And in terms of the recording today, Curtis Mead has been called up because Miguel Vargas just went on the IL with an oblique strain. I'm curious to see what Curtis Mead is going to do. I don't know too much about him, so if you guys want to comment on the video, would appreciate it. Adrian Hauser, he's a really good pitching depth. White Sox got him originally on like a one-year deal, and he did really well to the point where he was the best pitcher on the Chicago White Sox team. So Hauser, I thank him for everything he's done in a White Sox uniform, and I wish him nothing but the best of luck in Tampa Bay. Glad that he's going to go to a team that's going to fight for the playoffs, and he did really well for the White Sox. Okay, I didn't see this coming. Probably the biggest trade that truly happened at the deadline. Carlos Correa is back with the Houston Astros. The Minnesota Twins got left-handed pitcher Matt Molesky in return. So Molesky, now he's only gone far as high A. So we'll see how he does and if he's a potential major league player. Carlos Correa. So Isaac Paredes is out for the season. So Correa is potentially going to play just third base because Jeremy Pena is the shortstop. And it's going to be interesting to say the least because I never thought Correa would get traded. And the more I think of it, it makes sense to go back to a team that he's familiar with in the Houston Astros, two-time World Series champion. And he's basically Astro legend, Houston Astros Hall of Fame. And when healthy, one of the best shortstops in baseball. All righty. Do we have any more trades? Oh, the Cubs DFA'd Ryan Presley. Not a lot else to talk about. Mike Yastrzemski going to the Kansas City Royals, which weird trade. Don't understand this one from the Giants and Royals standpoint. I guess it gives him good help. Jordan Montgomery has been free from the Arizona Diamondbacks. He's going to go to the Brewers along with right-handed pitcher Shelby Miller. I think Brewers will help out both pitchers. And it seems to be, three trades I wanted to discuss really quick. Eric Fedde is going to go to the Braves from the Cardinals for a player later to be named. Fedde was really good with the White Sox last season, but with the Cardinals, he struggled. So hopefully a new change, new scenery, and go into a team like the Atlanta Braves. Randall Grichuk is going to go to the Kansas City Royals for right-handed pitcher Andrew Hoffman. Hoffman will give the Diamondbacks more pitching help, which is good. But Grichuk and the Royals? I don't know how the Royals are going to play him. This will be interesting, but good depth. Ahmed Rosario is also going to go to the New York Yankees. The Nationals are going to get Clayton Better and outfielder Brown Martinez. Good prospects. The Nationals are rebuilding, so they need more prospects, and they got a couple in return. Ahmed Rosario gives them good infield help for the New York Yankees and good glove at shortstop as Anthony Volpe has had a horrible year defensively. So good trade overall. And that is it for today's episode. Thank you for tuning into episode number 215 of Bill Man the Sport Guys podcast. I'm your host, Bill Man the Sports Guy. For the latest news of the NFL, NBA, MLB, and NHL, this is the podcast to be. Stay tuned for episode number 216. Peace.